Hola amigos, ¿cómo está? Muy bien. Yo soy Hager, estoy en Ciudad de México o CDMX or CDMX. En fin, the end. That's it. I have a lot to say. And I won't be able to do it in Spanish. But hello, I am dressed as, hopefully you recognize who I'm dressed as, Frida Kahlo, if you don't. And she is a popular Mexican painter. I'm not going to go through her life story, but you might have heard of her, Frida Kahlo. So, hi, and it is October 30th here right now, which is Halloween in the US, other parts of the world. And also, tomorrow, November 1st and November 2nd, is actually in Mexico City, Dia de los Muertos. And it's a big festival here, it's a big event. Because of COVID, I'm not really sure what's going on. I don't think there are any public parades like usual or any big events because of COVID. So I figured I'm here that I'll celebrate. Even if it's not, doesn't feel like a celebration because usually celebrations are public gatherings, right? But that's why I'm sharing this online. I feel like wherever you are in the world, this time of the year, there's somehow always something going on. I was thinking back in my life, and I was thinking about how this time of the year has kind of there's always been something going on for me. I grew up in the Philippines, as some of you may know, and my relationship with this time of the year is mostly, or it revolved around family. It revolved around my grandmother and grandfather's house. We do speak Filipino in the Philippines, but there's another dialect because I grew up in a province, which is Isabela, and we have a dialect called Ibanag. So a lot of my experience, and Ibanag and Filipino are completely different languages. So if you speak Filipino, you might not necessarily understand Ibanag. This time of the year was always kind of going to the cemetery. We called it Nammatay, which is in the dialect really literally translates to Day of the Dead. So it's kind of very similar to how the Spanish or Mexican way says it, Dia de los Muertos. But so growing up, we went to the cemetery, we brought food, we visit my grandparents, my grandmother and grandfather, and then other family members also. And so that was it. It was a celebration, but it was a solemn one. It was more of like a gathering to remember or commemorate your deceased friends or relatives and family members. So then I moved to the United States, and of course it was more like a Halloween there. There's not really a lot of significance of maybe, or at least in my experience, not a lot of significance of people who passed, but it was more of like, oh, this is a horror thing, costumes and horror shows and horror movies. Although in the Philippines, we also watch a lot of horror movies, and I hated that part of it. And I remember dressing up with my cousins the very first year in New York City. And we kind of just like dressed up mostly in black, kind of like a witch, right? And then we went out. And other times friends would invite, like I had a friend who had like an 80s party theme. So we dressed up as someone from the 80s or 90s, I don't remember. Oh, I have terrible details. But then when I was at work, the owner of the company would encourage us to dress up. So then that's kind of when I started really getting into it. I would typically I'm kind of cheap with costumes. So a lot of these things are things I already own. And that's how I've always felt like I dress up. I would just kind of pick whatever I have already. But anyway, this is getting too long. So Halloween in the United States, it's more like a Halloween thing. Dressing up costumes, horror trains, horror haunted houses. I didn't like any of the haunted things because I am not a big fan of horror things. I would rather much avoid it. But I did get into the costume thing, and I thought it was fun. It was kind of cool it felt like a day to play, and I'm not really big on, like, I typically wouldn't really think about doing this, but it felt like the Halloween event, right, kind of just encouraged you in a way to play, encourage you to be creative, or like, maybe who do I want to be? And it was interesting. It was an interesting thing, and I love that essence of it. And then a couple years ago, I watched Coco, which is a Disney film. You might have heard of it, and commemorating it was all about Dia de los Muertos, which is Day of the Dead. And I loved that film. I don't remember a lot of it now, but I remember loving that film, one, for the music, two, just for the visuals. It was so colorful. It was just beautiful. In just the traditions, the gatherings, the thought behind it. And to me, regardless if you're pro, anti, or you celebrate or you don't celebrate, this is what I love about events or holidays, is the symbol behind it. And maybe you can say it's a social symbol, or a lot of times these things become ours, personal events, right? Whether they're Halloween, whether they're Christmas, somehow the community aspect of it and the personal aspect of it emerges, and it connects. And then now an event becomes a gathering of everybody, but it also becomes kind of something special to you. And I feel like since I started dressing up, or since I enjoyed dressing up, or kind of felt like, oh, this is a time for me to play, it really transformed, if you will, my ideas about this holiday, because it really kind of allowed me to have a different personality, if you will. Like, I'm not usually a dress up person, but it was cool to just like, oh, what do I want to be? And maybe this is a cool time, and just like everybody doing it was fun, you know? And it's also the part of it where you are looking forward to seeing what people that you know, or maybe even that you don't know, are dressed up as. What is their idea of Halloween or their costume this year, and why? If there isn't any significance, maybe they just put it together last minute. Regardless of the circumstances, it was fun. Like, it was a fun thing to talk about. It was a fun thing to watch. It was a fun thing to see. And then fast forward to, like I said, Dia de los Muertos. I've been reading a lot about this event, and also I'm learning Spanish. So Karen, my teacher, shout out to her. She's been telling me a lot about this holiday, and I even have a list of things here, and I wanted to kind of incorporate it in this event. If you read up on it, the first thing you can kind of tell about Dia de los Muertos, I keep having a tough time saying it. Dia de los Muertos, Day of the Dead. So there's a lot of dead people, so de los Muertos. Okay, grammar-wise. Anyway, so the thing that I love about this is that as much as it is the Day of the Dead, I feel like it has helped me kind of, because like I said, I get really scared about Halloween. I hate, like, that aspect of it was not necessarily fun for me, especially the movies. But I feel like with this holiday, if you read up on it, if you look at it, it's very colorful. So it's, instead of a day of mourning, it becomes not just a day of remembrance, but it becomes a day of celebration, right? It's a very colorful thing. The day of celebration, there's a lot of gatherings. You remember the family member, and aside from just remembering them, maybe solemnly or somberly, you actually celebrate them. You celebrate their life, you celebrate who they were in your life, who they are in your life, right? And I think that's just a beautiful thing, especially this year. I feel like for collectively as a human, we've gone through a lot of, if you will, deaths, not just because of COVID, but just for the things that we kind of lost because of the transition from whatever COVID started, right? Like that gathering of community now is just like social distancing, the mask, everything, whatever other issues came up. There are also a lot of issues that come with it, that came with that change. And there were also a lot of gifts that came with that change. It's always kind of, I always feel like there's always a, there's like a weighing scale. There's like cons, pros, and so forth. And I've been talking about to Nick, or friends on this, is that the idea of ancestry, the idea of your heritage, maybe the idea of us being connected to people in the past, not just through our bloodline, and maybe especially through our bloodline, but our ancestors, right? Maybe Mulan, I haven't seen the new film, but the old film, that's one of the big points of the film, like the Disney, like we used to watch Mulan so many times. That was like our Frozen. But like ancestors, you know, like that song, that whole concept of you are kind of carrying your family line with you. And whether you have a good relationship with that family line or not, it's like thinking back about that, remembering, and maybe celebrating in a way that was good, and in a way that kind of makes it a positive, you know? And that's what I loved about this event. It's like a whole, or this holiday here, the way they kind of just, it was very colorful instead of just dark. It was just a lot of like festivities that comes with it. I wanted to take a moment to celebrate the people that were close to me, like my grandmother, my grandparents, family, friends, relatives that passed, my uncle, and friends that has passed. And also maybe if you don't have those people, just even the parts of myself that I feel like died. Because there's a lot that happened in the last couple of years and in this year. Yes, this year. And I feel like instead of like mourning, like maybe I'm 31, my youth, for example, it's almost like celebrating what has passed, celebrating what has died, or celebrating a rebirth. And that's an interesting thing. Like this time of the year is also known as harvest season, right? And I think a lot of these death, that aspect of death kind of comes full circle with the thought of harvest, right? You're taking away the fruits of your harvest, but also that's kind of, you know, in a way, killing the plant, and then it goes on to a cycle. So there's a lot going on here. So I do know a lot of people that are very much against these holidays, so I want to respect them. And as much as I don't necessarily agree on the fact that there's something like sinister about this holiday, I want to respect that point of view. To me, it's like it's become a symbol, started as a child or growing up as a symbol of remembrance, as a symbol of kind of looking back, and then it kind of transformed to the Halloween of a symbol of playfulness, creativity, and just kind of maybe empowerment or empathy too, understanding, oh wow, you dressed up like that, I would never have thought you're like this. So there's a lot of that back and forth, playfulness, creativity, and then now it's turning into, in a lot of ways, I love the way the Mexicans celebrate it. It's like a celebration, it's colorful, it's like commemorating, it's saying this is our family, this was what they gave us, this is what they're giving us. And so if you're celebrating, or if you want to think about this specific person, maybe that's, you have a specific person or people in mind, like I do, and I also have a specific experience, if you will, or a specific, maybe me in a way. Parts of me died. That sounds very dramatic, but you know what I mean. Parts of me have died in the last couple years. Again, example is like, oh, I'm turning 30 kind of thing, whatever. So yeah, so whatever it is, if you want to join me here, I just want to kind of go through Karen, my teacher. I wish she's here. The different parts of, not different parts. Apparently there are elements. So the biggest thing, and if you've watched Coco, you've seen this. There is something they call, I wrote down notes because memory is not too good. Ofrenda, which is an offering. And this is very familiar to me because in the Philippines, we also have altars, like an altar of a picture of the deceased. And you kind of put food in there, you kind of put candles. So it's actually very similar in a lot of ways. We do this during the Day of the Dead, but usually year-round, that place is at home. It was there, it's a place of remembrance, like I said. So, but in the Day of the Dead, if you've seen Coco, there are these ofrenda, which is basically consists of all these things. I don't know the symbolism, maybe Coco will tell us, but I wanted to kind of make it fun, make it like a celebration. So I did try to get as many of the points in here that Karen has told me. Okay, so the ofrenda is an offering. It's like an offering. I don't know how else I can open that, but I feel like maybe you understand that. In this season in my life, it just relates very much. To me, it makes a lot of sense, and maybe that's why I'm doing this too. Typically, what's in an ofrenda or an altar is un vaso de tequila. So I was gonna get a little tequila, but this is their little here. So you put a glass of tequila in the altar, right? Un vaso de tequila. So I have one here. I haven't drank actually for a long time because my stomach actually acts up with alcohol now. So, but I might try this. Maybe I'll get a shot. So, pan de muerte. Oh my goodness. So, guilty. I bought this bread. This is a special bread, and I've seen it everywhere since I got here in Mexico City about a month ago, almost a month ago now. And I was wondering what it is. In the Philippines, we kind of have something called ensaymada, and it looks similar, but the shape is different. I have a picture of it. I'm guilty. I've ate half of it already because it was really good. And this one is pan de muerte de relleno, meaning there is actually a filling inside, which is de nata, and it was so good. It was like whipped butter. It was yummy. So this is the half of it. I already ate half. But that's pan de muerte, which is specific for this time of the year. Okay, so that's one element. So tequila, the bread, flores. This beautiful flower is everywhere this time. And in the city here, La Reforma, I'm kind of in the center. Centro Histórico is the location I'm in. In a popular avenue called La Reforma, you can see it. So, and people taking pictures with the skull face. If I'm really good at makeup, that's what I would have done. But my powers of painting and art is not there. So I bought a little bit here and there. But anyway, so yeah, this is the flower. I'm gonna try to pronounce it. Apparently some people call it marigold, but Karen, specifically they call it here, it's very difficult. So I might butcher it, I'm sorry. Sempasuchit. Sempasuchito. Okay, so it's an indigenous pronunciation because like chocolate, right? It's a Mexican, it originated in Mexico, and the way it started from the indigenous people, and it's chocolate, I think. So that's kind of the similar word. That word is similar to this. So that's this beautiful flower, and it actually, the smell does remind me of, it smells nice, but it does remind me of growing up. Like I said, we go to the cemetery. It reminds me of flowers that you put in a cemetery. Yes. Okay, so next are candles, which they call velas. I thought I had a candle, so I didn't buy one, but I didn't. So instead, I have an incense here, which I feel like might be the same. But in the Philippines, we also do candles. We don't really do a lot of incense. I just started learning about or using incense more recently. But in the Philippines, we do candles. So that's it. And then, comida favorita de la persona muerta. So the favorite food of the person who is deceased or who passed. I have, they call this elote, which is a corn with chile, pica chile, meaning it's spicy. It's not that hot actually. So yeah, I have that corn. Whose favorite is that? I don't remember my grandmother's favorite. I did make her soup. Like I did make a Filipino soup today, which is called sinigang. I finished it though all week. So, but I have chocolates here. So bread, corn. Corn is a popular one in the Philippines, and we kind of do it like this without any of the seasoning. Typically, we just eat it boiled or boiled like this. It's very good. Their kernels here are much bigger though. Like our corn in the Philippines are smaller. Like really small, but these ones are huge. Oops, sorry. All right, anyway, so favorite of the person you are thinking about, maybe yourself, if you feel like that's part, I'm not trying to kill you, but you know what I mean? So, no joke, when I was preparing all this, because part of my brain is like kind of getting weird, it's just like, what am I doing? It spooked me for a second, but then I resist that temptation, because then that's like the idea that is something like scary thing. I actually want it to be a celebration, and that's what I'm trying to do here. So anyway, un vaso de agua. Un vaso de agua, so that is, oops, oh my god, sorry. Gotta be careful. A glass of water. here, and I'm actually getting really thirsty. Sal en plato, which is a plate of salt. We're not sure, but I kind of get it. I don't know why. It's like flavor. I kind of get it. And I can't even explain why. The photograph of the deceased or whoever you're thinking about, I have it in my heart because I don't have it. So that's good. And a couple more fruits, that's also part of it. So I have little oranges here and avocado. And of course, two things that you see everywhere here, and you've probably seen it too in Coco or maybe in other places where you've seen people celebrate this, is, I wish I have a lot more of these, but of course I don't want to go overboard. Do you see? It's a skull candy. They have a ton of these, and of course a lot of the decorations are skull, and you would see, like, I wish I could buy like a lot of here, but I can't really carry any of those. So I bought one. See, this is a chocolate skull, and I like the colors, and they call that here calaveritas. See, the skull, so that's like a decoration. So even calaveritas, I really didn't like the idea of skull, the idea of like that is kind of creepy for me. So I feel like now I can see it as kind of fun, you know? It's cool. And to see people dressed up as skulls or like makeup with skulls, I get it a little bit more now. And then the last is the papel picado, which are these little paper with shapes of a skull, or they have different kinds. I bought small ones. So Karen, my teacher, brought me to the market today, and that's where we got a little bit of all these. So mercado. So I have a bunch of these, and all their papel picado are so colorful. I wish I can hang them here, but I don't have scotch tapes. I'm staying at an Airbnb, just so you know. And I have some like Greek theme going on in this apartment, so that's what you're seeing here. But yes, so these are the colorful papers, papel picado, and it's like banderitas almost, you know? In fiesta, right? You have banderitas, which is usually like a triangular paper, colorful paper, but these are for Halloween or Dia de los Muertos. See, I love them. I love how colorful they are, and it's very rare to see anything black here during this time of the year, aside from, of course, the skull costumes, if you want to. So those are things that you put in an offering, and those are the things that you put in the altar. So now that we have all those things, I do plan on toasting to our deceased loved ones, and whatever else you feel has died in the last year for you, you know? So I'm gonna eat because I can't drink on an empty stomach. Although I'm full, I just want to be sure. I feel like this year has been kind of hard for the whole world, you know, with COVID, just a completely different life all of a sudden. And if we can just bury COVID right now, let's do that. But in a way, I also want to say there is a celebration that comes with it, and a hope of maybe a better future for everyone, you know, for all of us. So yeah, I'm gonna eat. So if maybe you have things, if you want to join me, if not, it's okay. And so that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to kind of think about my grandparents, the people that I love that has passed. I wanted to also think about the experiences I've had that's been tough. Like I want to, you know, or parts of me that has passed, and think about them, or maybe even friends and family members or anything, right? That feels like it needs a rebirth. And what's interesting about Dia de los Muertos is in Coco, it's almost like the reason, if I remember correctly, part of the reason why they prepare for this day is because the dead comes back to the land of the living, right? To kind of visit. And of course, people usually like, that's why I don't like that. The horror kind of makes it look like so scary that, oh, they're coming back. But it's also like it's a togetherness again. And maybe they've never, in a way, right? Like our ancestors are always kind of a part of us, our family members. Whether that's the love that they gave us, experiences we've shared with them, and so forth. Oops. So my costume is completely makeshift. This is like so you're kind of seeing it fall apart a little bit. And I'm thinking about the good memories or the things that they've brought me, you know, they've given me. Maybe sometimes good and bad. And I'm taking this moment to transform that experience as more than just a remembrance, as more than just thinking, but also as a celebration, as a form of love, you know, a love for their life, their lives, like a renewal, a rebirth of those things as something that gave love, gave me love, gave other people love. So yeah, I'm thinking a lot about them right now. So yeah, I'm taking a moment here to think about them. So I'm gonna stop talking. And I will think about them while I eat my corn. In the Philippines, and it looks like in this country too, food is a huge, huge unifier. Back home, any gathering, any meeting revolves around food and drinks, but mostly food. So in a lot of ways, people I'm remembering too, I remember them eating with them, you know?